Greetings and salutations, listeners. I, Eric J. Chucky, joined, as always, by the boy who has one very important word to tell you.
Woo!
This is a Two Nerds podcast. And today we're talking about
bullshit.
Fucking whatever.
Random bullshit. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story, listener. White's had a very interesting week. He's done a lot of stuff. He had cool experiences. He played new games. He bought games on sale. He found great deals and bargains, and he did cool shit. I did fucking nothing all week because I recently got a new day job that was a promotion. I have to do a lot of complex math, so I don't do a lot of complex shit in my free time. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing we've both been doing is playing a lot more League. I've been super interested in this event, and you've been enjoying it too. But
I have a lot, actually, and it's been interesting to get back into League after legitimately I didn't play it for like 2 years.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up with it off and on.
More, actually. Damn.
It's been a while for you.
Hold on, just 1 second.
I thought today was an up day.
It is now. But yeah, so a lot of this is going to be White talking. I'm going to pitch in with the stuff I have been doing, because I don't just sit around like a bump on a log. I would go insane. But a lot of this is going to be White Raven talking about all the cool shit he's done, and I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to go real quick into the Steam Summer Sale. Usually both of us bought something, but you kind of didn't this week.
I only really wanted to buy one game, and then I realized that I wouldn't actually have fun playing that game. I just like watching it on YouTube, so I didn't.
Whereas I kind of went out looking for stuff. A bunch of adventure games were recommended to me, and they were super cheap. There was some stuff that was on sale that I've been meaning to buy for a while. And one game I'm very proud of that I got really fucking cheap because of coupons. And one game I actually finished already. But usually I go through prices, but the sale's over. So I'm just going to run down here and tell you real quick what I managed to get. Torment, Tides of Numenera is the one I'm pretty happy about because I got it for $5.17. In terms of adventure games, I got the entire Blackwell series. I believe these are all adventure games. The Shiva, Gemini Rue, Resonance, A Golden Wake, and Shardblight. They were recommended to me for a company sale. I also picked up, on the first day of the sale, Odysseus Cosmos and His Robot Quest Complete Season. Tiny Barbarian DX, The End is Nigh, Immortal Darkness, Curse of the Pale King, Maniac Mansion, Squidlet, and Night in the Woods. Night in the Woods is the game I finished. And I would recommend it. I don't know what it is about my adulthood. I mean, if I sat down and did the math, inside half an hour I could figure out what it is. Probably 15 minutes. But I really like sad animals.
You mean like in fiction?
Yeah. No, not in real life. Fucking in the arms of the angels. Yes! Show them to me!
If I ever met someone who reacted to that commercial like that...
Shoot them immediately!
I have to go. Even if they're in my house, I have to leave.
You can have this place now. It is tainted. But no, like BoJack Horseman and a bunch of other shit, just not on the top of my head.
Yeah, Sadimals in general.
And I like slice of life stuff. It's why I like indie movies. Like that genre of indie movie. Wes Anderson kind of stuff too. He's not really indie, but
several people have a life. Nothing interesting happens. At some point, there's a slow-mo shot of a woman walking. That's the movie.
It was a regular motion shot, and it was a boy running. Thank you very much.
Mm.
Night in the Woods kind of combines those things, and it does it really well. The art style is really great. There's a lot of fluid emotion in the animations when there are animations. Most of it's pretty well animated, but like the facial animations don't show up a lot. They're subtle. They're really good. And the writing is just fantastic. The comedy is amazing. It really captures... The entire aesthetic of the game really captures growing up in small town East but not Coast. Like, it's just...
and you said you don't think I would like this?
It's not really your type of
To be fair,
game.
I really didn't like growing up in small town East but not Coast, so...
You would see people in this game and go, I know them. But your patience for certain personalities makes me question whether or not you'd bother.
That's absolutely fair. Like, absolutely fair. The last Steam game I bought was Crusader Kings 2, and then just after the refund window closed, I stopped engaging in the activity that made me want to play Crusader Kings 2.
And it was pretty pricey. Not like really expensive in terms of video games, but you know, in terms of taking a gamble on something. I remember when I got Gone Home, I got it on sale for like $10, and I still feel like I paid too much. It was a fun, engaging tale, and I'm sure it took a lot of effort to get into. I was entertained for approximately 2 hours with that. Now, Night in the Woods is about 11 to 12 hours long, and I feel like there's replay value. I want to go back and do the things I didn't do. They're not usually moral choices, because you're playing a character, so like, May does stuff. You know, she's going to react a certain way, and sometimes you have yes or yes choices that are just phrased slightly differently. But that's just who her character is. It just slightly changes how people react to what she says. But you can go hang out with other people, and time is limited. So I kind of want to go back relatively soon. Usually it's like when I finish a game, I'm like, I'm going to sleep on that for a while, but I'll probably give it until August when I've got some time again.
That's actually super neat. That's really quick turnaround for you.
Yeah, it is.
That's honestly, listener, that says more about the quality of the game than a lot of the stuff he said.
It's well written. The gameplay is exploratory. It's about finding things to interact with and then interacting with those things.
Would you qualify it as more of an adventure game style or more of a game what seeks to simulate walking?
I don't know if I'd call it an adventure game because that implies puzzles, and there's not a lot in terms of a puzzle. There is a rhythm game component, and there is sort of a seek and find kind of component. She has dreams/nightmares where you go around and have to find 4 musicians.
So like a hidden object game?
No, like a platformer.
Oh, okay.
But like a soft platformer, like... not even like Mario 3. Like, really, really simple. Low stakes. You're not going to die. It's something to do to entertain yourself between scenes of this movie. And there are some little mini games and stuff, like hitting light tubes in the back of the gas station parking lot with a baseball bat.
God. Jesus.
That's
just...
Oh, yeah.
Man.
That was the real, huh?
God, yes. That's... Wow.
But I love the characters in it. It's a good adventure. It's low gameplay, but there is gameplay. You play a base for a while. There's a little bit of platforming, a little bit of exploration. You know,
it's sort of a grab bag to keep you engaged through what is essentially a Netflix original series, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's very interactive, and I encourage this method of storytelling. I don't care what you call it. If you demand that it's not a game because there's not enough interaction.
It's like a good David Cage game.
Yeah. I like Quantic Dream games, sort of.
Well, I didn't say that you can't like them. I said one that is good instead of them.
Sure.
They're not good.
I liked Heavy Rain. I have no problems with Heavy Rain.
We've gone into my problems with Heavy Rain.
Yes, and they are control based.
They are entirely. But
the others are questionable. Anyway, moving on. So
I did want to engage.
You did
interject. Actually, related to Netflix series. I actually have some negative news, and I don't typically share that on the podcast because there's enough people shitting on things in life, and you don't really need to hear about the stuff I didn't like very much. But I want to mention this because I really fucking loved this thing until now, and I'm sad about it. So I kind of want to share with the listener.
Well, and I also think, given previous podcasts, the listener may have expected to get one from us.
And, I mean, look, maybe I'm just in the wrong headspace. I have been stressed out recently, but I couldn't even get to the first episode of the 3rd season of Stranger Things. And
you know what? I would love to hear your points on that, and I'm sure the listener would too. But let me submit that I had the same problem with the first season of Stranger Things.
And this might be just turned differently enough that, that like, you feel like I should give it...
I'd say give it 3 episodes, and if you're still like, this is garbage trash, and I want to throw it in the dumpster, and then set the dumpster on fire, and then pee on the fire, by all means.
I mean, I'm not thinking that harsh now.
Okay.
So, like, that's unlikely. I think you nailed it, because we've talked about this off mic, as it were, but I think you nailed it the other day when we were talking about it, that the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things were magic to me. I loved them. I loved all the acting. They had some of the best child acting I've ever seen. And I loved all the storytelling. I even loved that weird episode where 11 goes and is in a different show for a minute. The 3rd season, they're teenagers now, because that's how time passes, and Netflix cannot stop these children from having puberty happen to them. And I just don't like stories about teenagers as much. I don't like as you put it, I prefer my coming-of-age tales to be like people on the cusp of a great change in their life, not people going through what is objectively the shittiest part of your life. Like, I'm 30 now. I've got at least a little experience. Being a teenager was absolutely, objectively the shittiest part of my life. And I have never gone into detail on my childhood on this podcast, but that is saying something.
I've had a shittier part, but because of, chemical imbalances, so...
And so I think that's a big part of... I just don't like coming-of-age stories about teenagers. I don't find that particular change dynamic part of life as compelling. I think that might be a big part of it. And you're right, I might stand to give it another shot, because I loved the first 2 seasons so much. I think I'll wait until it's...
Oh, God, yeah.
Until it's closer to the end of summer, because that's when the show takes place, is the end of a summer. So maybe I'll be in a better mental space for it then.
Much like Night in the Woods, let's hold off till August and see what's going on. It's interesting that I didn't think about this when we were talking off mic. I like that expression. It implies we do all of our talking on mic, and that's a special occasion. But I recently saw The Greatest Showman, which was a fine film. But the way people reacted to it made me think it was going to be better. And I'm sure a part of it is that it's just like, I've already seen better movies. It's a musical, for those of you who don't know. Because I didn't know until a couple months ago that it was musical. I thought it was one of those...
Isn't that the Hugh Jackman thing that he did after he was done with Wolverine?
P.T. Barnum.
Oh, I figured it was a musical just because Hugh Jackman was in it.
I didn't know...
It's like all he does when he's not Wolverine.
And that's fair. But the decision to make a movie about P.T. Barnum and place him as your hero character?
That's a little questionable. He was a shit.
Yeah. And even in the movie, as positively as they portray him, he's still an asshole.
Like, he's almost like a synonym. P.T. Barnum is almost a synonym for like, scam artist.
Right. But without getting into the details of who Barnum was.
That's an interesting choice. I figured it was like a villain protagonist thing.
Not even.
Huh. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Anyway, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. This is very much an Avengers situation. I just didn't like it that much. I prefer still Moulin Rouge or even Chicago. And I think Moulin Rouge tells a very similar tale, sort of. But, I wonder if it's not just because it's just not the kind of... Not the version of that, not the tropes that assemble that I like, or... Perhaps I was just more cloven to similar stuff from a previous time. It's sort of comparative, and we experienced it around the same time. I'm surprised I didn't think of that then. But there have been other things we've been doing. Let's talk a little bit more about coming back to League.
Sure, yeah. That's been a really positive experience for the most part. I think the biggest lesson I learned coming back to League was I don't play League of Legends seriously. I don't think I ever will again. I think that's probably a bad... I have a very toxic relationship with playing League of Legends in a serious way. I play League of Legends for fun, which means I play bot matches and ARAMs.
And it feels like League is finally, at this point especially, they've been doing it for a while, but it's plateaued. League is finally at a point where that's encouraged. You know, because back in day, bot matches didn't count for shit, except your first win. And it just wasn't as satisfying. Well, that brought back an old joke to my head that I'm not going to tell the listener.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And stuff like ARAMs as well. Well, now that you can earn character XP in ARAMs, and
you can earn character XP, and they do the quest things,
yes,
and ARAMs qualify for those, and so do bot matches.
So do bot matches for quests. And now that you have the XP system, where you get your champion capsules when you level up to the infinite level scaling, it just all feels a lot better. It doesn't feel like you have to be playing ranked, or you have to be playing standard live matches in order to enjoy the game.
Yeah, if I feel like just popping into League, having fun playing some champions and having fun, you know, getting their mechanics and trying stuff out, I play a bot match. If I feel like going for something challenging where I'm facing real people, I play an ARAM. Because both of those things neatly carve out my literal least favorite part of League of Legends, which is the rock, paper, scissors match that comes before every single match of League.
Yeah.
In any serious mode, where it's basically just, alright, they're picking this person. Who's the person I can pick that wins the match against that person without trying? And they're doing the same to you, and since I'm bad at video games, they're probably going to do it better than I am. In ARAMs, you get what you get. Sometimes you win, sometimes you get the team comp where you go, oh, we're going to lose. Okay.
Well, and I don't think that rock, paper, scissors thing would be as bad if it wasn't for the toxicity and the tendency to blame.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, not entirely. You run into some, you know, League players occasionally when you're playing League. But in the less serious modes, there's not as many shitheads.
It's because what can you do? Like, you know, oh, you have 2 rerolls in an ARAM and you could switch with things that have been traded off.
I like that, by the way. That's new.
Oh, yeah, it is great. So you make your best of the situation, but you're not always going to have an ideal situation. I think it was last night, me and some randos went up a team that was just going to kill us. I don't remember who all was in it, but, like, Morgana was there, among others. And, like, one of us said at the beginning, woof, that's a rough battle. And I was like, yeah, we're going to die. And we lost. Nobody was mad.
One of the times we were playing, I don't think it was yesterday. It was Sunday. Which was yesterday. This is Monday.
God, it was, wasn't it?
Wow.
That shopping trip felt like a separation between 2 days.
It really did. But we were playing, and at the beginning of the match, I looked at the champion I was playing, and then at like 2 members of the enemy team went, okay, both of those guys are going to absolutely face roll me. There's nothing I can do about it. And I was right.
But it's okay. Nobody cares. Like, you know, so long as you relax and you just change your perspective on why you're here to play League and what you're here to accomplish.
Normally, I'm here to get experience, to get a new champion capsule, to see if it's a champion I don't have, who's expensive, who I can get at half price from the capsule, which makes me feel very rewarded. That is a very rewarding
it's really
mechanic.
good.
Or I'm here to finish a quest. Usually a quest that getting into the match has finished.
And I just like the gameplay.
Yeah, League is just kind of a fun game when you strip away the parts of it which are extraneous and the majority of the shitty people.
So that's been both of us kind of wilding away on that. I really like this current arcade event. Really looking forward to the Demacia Vice skins. Otherwise, it's just been a little bit of a blast.
And it's been good for League, too. Riot's got more of my money in the last month than they have in the previous 6 years.
Goddamn same. I spent $40 a couple weeks ago on dumb shit.
It's just, it's...
Make something I like that I can engage with and enjoy. And
you'll get my money.
Like, fucking Brave Exvius failed on that front. I had to finally drop it. And I think I mentioned that before. I don't know how long Marvel Heroes is going to keep my attention. Or not Marvel Heroes, but the mobile one. Future Fight.
Make something that's cool that I can engage with. I'm bad at video games. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do about that. Make something that I can engage with, and I'm not afraid to spend money on video games, man.
No, same. I will buy your DLCs. I don't care. I don't. It is, at the end of the day, just money. Now, that money keeps me from buying things a lot. Like, I still haven't got Sekiro, and there's a couple of fighting games that have dropped.
I just don't know that either of us are going to like Sekiro as much as we like
That's
Dark
my
Souls.
big risk, yeah. Especially after Bloodborne.
Even though I like character action games a lot more than you do, I like... What I like about Dark Souls doesn't seem to be in Sekiro.
Same. It's a concern.
Might be a good character action game, but it also looks really hard, and, I mean, as I just stated, I'm bad at video games.
I like hard games. So... That's kind of the weird thing with me, is I play exactly two styles of games. Really hard fucking shit, and then, like, the softest soft boy crap.
They bleed pixels or dropsy. That's your shit.
But anyway, speaking of that exact divide, I think that brings us pretty naturally into Mario Maker 2.
Yes, that is exactly what you get in Mario Maker.
Sure is.
I don't play a lot of Mario Maker, but boy howdy have I been watching it on YouTube.
Yeah,
Many people are very upset.
It's golden time to be enjoying YouTube. I've been complaining for so long that all my YouTube people are either suddenly and suspiciously missing from YouTube, or not playing games I want to watch. And here is the Mario Maker. And suddenly motherfuckers I haven't watched in forever are playing Mario Maker. And I'm like, great! I too have been playing it. I got it a week after. I needed to get, the cash together. But apparently I'm good at Mario. I have been informed.
Yes, he's, if the internet is to be believed, based on the clear rate of the thing he cleared in, like, a short amount of time trying it that, like, very few other people have, he's very good at Mario.
Well, after I was getting hype about it, my girlfriend sent me a level, and she was like, you should try this out. So when I downloaded it, I did. And
mentioning better shit on your shit, neither of them know this guy, which is hilarious. The level she so happened to find on Twitter and send to him is Nakey Jakey's first level.
With all the jumping.
Wacky jumping. That's apparently very hard. I haven't looked into it too much, but yeah.
It took me about 40 minutes to get through, but I got through it. I started playing Ross's first level.
Ross O'Donovan, that is to say, River Ross.
I could have beat it, but I had places to be.
Not Geller, I guess. God,
I would play his level.
If David Schwimmer fucking came out with a Mario Maker level, I would play it.
I need to go back and finish that OJ show, man. He was so fucking
He's
good
a really good actor.
He's amazing.
He's a better director, from what I understand. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He seems like a real clever guy. But, I have to say the biggest thing for me that has improved my Mario Maker experience is the additional themes. When I got it last time, of course I got it near the Wii U's end of its life cycle, as I have lamented long and hard. But I made a level in the new Super Mario Brothers cave setting, and then I was like, well, the rest of these are kind of meh. But now we've got day and night versions of all the levels. We've got jungle, desert, snow, and I think one other extra one was added in. And we've got 3D Mario, whatever, with the cats. You know that one, listener, or you don't, and you can Google it. There's just so many options of, like, aesthetics and control styles to play around with. It's really deepening my desire. I've got one level I'm almost done with that I should be uploading fairly soon. If y'all give a shit, follow me on Twitter. Link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and then send me money on Patreon. We're sponsored by Audible. No, we're not. Audible, where you can get a free audiobook with the code 2nerds20. That's 2nerds20. This doesn't exist.
Speaking of Audible, though, I recently got back into audiobooks, as I mentioned on the podcast before.
This podcast is going to be called Accidental Segue. I'm just going to put that out there.
And it's actually something I did want to bring up on the podcast is, for a long time, my favorite book series was Stephen King's Dark Tower series. If some of you asked me what my favorite book series was, you'd get that answer. My favorite book is different. as dedicated listeners might know. But my favorite book series was Stephen King's Dark Tower, and I haven't read it since I was like a teenager. So recently I got the audiobooks and I got back into it. And coming at it as a 30-year-old man who has, a lot more experience with stories and a lot more experience with building worlds and, making compelling narrative. And obviously, I'm not Stephen King, but I have been a DM for most of my adult life. I still love the Dark Tower series, but there were a lot of criticisms of it that sounded baffling to me back in the day that I understand a lot more now.
There was a cracked article years ago, and it might have been half satire. It didn't make sense to me at the time because I think the guy who wrote it did it poorly. But the idea was that after a certain point in your life, you should really look back at the stuff you like and see if you actually like it.
And that's essentially what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I went back to the Dark Tower series because I listened to another podcast where the premise is that mentioning better shit on your shit. It's called Unspoiled. It's a really good podcast. I have some quibbles with it, but that's neither here nor there. I listened to them for another series they do, and I saw they had a Dark Tower series, so I started listening to it, and I realized that I love this series, but they had some criticisms I didn't know that I agreed with. So I got the audiobooks and wanted to see if, re-listening, if they had a better idea of it than I did when I was 16. And while I still don't agree with all their criticisms, they make some really cogent points that I didn't see back in the day, which is interesting. Now, the other side of that is there are definitely things I enjoy more about the series now than I did back then. But I don't know that I still call it my favorite book series, and that's weird.
Similar but not. This past week, I got the first chance since the fucking 90s to play Mace the Dark Age again. For those of you just joining us, one of my favorite fighting games of all time. It has aged better than expected, but that is not to say well. It aged, but it did age better than I expected it to. It's slow, but that's fighting games. And 3D fighting games in the 90s specifically.
Go back and play the first Soul Calibur sometime.
Yeah. I honestly think it's not as deep and complex, but it's got a very similar vibe to Soul Calibur, and it's I think it was panned at the time, and I think that was a mistake on the part of the critics. I think it was a good game, and I still think it is. I think the material, the intellectual property, is rife for relaunching. But I don't know who owns the copyright. I keep trying to bug people, because that's the way you get stuff done in 2019. But I can't figure out the paper trail. Like, I know who bought the remainder of Midway's assets, but like it's so split up that I'm not sure who has what.
It's just in some big corporate IP pile, essentially.
Yeah. Guarded by top men.
I did want to mention one specific criticism of the Dark Tower series.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Which I didn't agree with back then, and I do agree with now. It's that coming at this with an adult's eyes, it is really, this is true of all Stephen King's work, it is blisteringly obvious when he's written something on and off drugs. And more so, it's really obvious that this series was written over a very long period of time and not continuously. Because the fifth book, for instance, that's where I'm in my reread currently, or I suppose re-listen. And the second book, even, not the first book. The first book is kind of an outlier. He wrote that when he was like 19 in the 70s. But even the second book and the fifth book are just very, very thematically different stories. It's
really interesting you bring that up, as you well know, but the listener doesn't. That's a lot of the reason I haven't gone back to my book series, is that there was some space of time where I changed as a person between. And I don't want my literal fifth book to be so tonally different from the first four that it feels like a different series. If I'm going to do that, why not do something else?
And I get why Stephen King didn't. One, he's Stephen King. He writes 12 books a week,
and it was making money.
He makes so much money. Why would he? But people wanted it. He wanted to write it. He was having a good time, so he wrote it. Whatever.
Yeah, fuck it.
Fuck you. I wrote The Skeleton Who Was on Top of a Van. I'm Stephen King.
Is that a real book?
God, I hope so.
God, I wish it was. I would read it.
But
he was a real asshole, that skeleton on top of my van, always blaring horrible music and banging on the windows. I leaned out the window and said, "Fuck you, Mr. Rattlebones," and he gave me the middle finger, so I did cocaine about it.
Stephen King, the 80s. But it's really, really tonally different, and that's fine if the tone of the story evolves as it goes on. But that's not what's happening. It's a little slipshod, and you can kind of see the cracks. At least I can now. And that's really weird for me. Because I would have struggled to give you like a serious, genuine critique of this book series when I first read it. Or even the second time I read it. I only read it twice because I almost never reread anything. And it's really odd to go back and see, with more developed eyes, what just was invisible to me back then.
Mm-hmm. I've had similar experiences, not quite as strong, but this is the first big one for you.
Oh, by the way, it's still great, just so we're clear.
Sure. Well, and like I had been going back and replaying the old Mega Man games, and looking back on them, I was like, this is great. This was great. Going back, especially 4. 4 is a good one. Touching a boss chunks your health so much. They're just really fast, frenetic, and either you kill them with the weapon you're supposed to kill them with, or you're a god at the game, or they kill you. And, that's a design flaw. That's not great game design. The earlier bosses had better game design.
He's fucking criticized Mega Man in my presence. I don't know how to handle that. I've never seen him do that before.
Not Heatman's level. Well, Heatman's level is kind of bullshit, but Quickman's level is also kind of bullshit. Don't get me wrong here. They're not perfect games. And God, you want me to criticize Mega Man? Put Mega Man 8 in front of me. I won't shut up about it. Jump, jump, slide, slide. Jump, jump. Y'all know what I'm talking about, unless you don't. And then...
Good for you.
Good for you, listener. Good for you. But anyway, I get it. And honestly, listener, I encourage you to do the same thing. You will either go back and go, yep, still great.
And I've done that with stuff.
Hell yeah, me too. Hey, most of Mega Man is still fantastic. I've had a phenomenal time playing through these games.
I've read through, of book series, I think the only book series I've read through more than the Dresden Files is yours.
Well, you helped me edit it, so.
Yeah, well... and I still like those. Those aren't perfect books, but I never thought they were. Whereas there was a version of me who would have maybe argued that for the Dark Tower series, and I think that's where the
sure, yeah, definitely. Hey, you got to keep it real. You got to keep it honest, and I've done the reverse. We've talked about that here on the show. Going back to check out things I thought I hated. Sometimes not so bad. Sometimes I was right.
Yeah, sometimes. Oh no, this is terrible.
Yes.
I hope to have a similar experience to the first thing you mentioned later when I go back to visit the third season of Stranger Things. I want to like it. I really do.
That helps a lot. I point you back to the mind-changing podcast that was our Infinity War podcast.
Where we convinced ourselves to like the movie?
I have not looked back. I look back and go, I have some criticisms with how that was done, but whatever.
Yeah, I like the movie. Whatever. I can't think of anything else I've done. You did a bunch more stuff.
Did I?
You said?
Well, we discussed a lot of it. I just kind of mentioned it in brief. If you like neat stories about small towns and sad people, but having a good time, either play or watch a YouTuber you like play through Night in the Woods. I recommend it.
Play League of Legends, but not seriously, and go back and look at the stuff you liked as a young and see if it holds up. Because you'll get surprised sometimes, and that's neat.
Yeah, and see if you're better than me at Mario Maker. You're not.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it. Fuck it!